Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mr. Pygmy and the Manhater
Wait,
podcast.
before we start, someone wrote
No,
someone
no,
wrote on
no,
YouTube.
no.
No, this is important. Someone wrote on YouTube, does anybody else get annoyed that Chesko messes up every intro? And somebody was like, no, that's just you. Well, because they were like, I think Reagan's actually annoyed by it at this point. And like, yes, that's a
Yes,
fair
but
assessment.
also in the ways that I would be with a sibling. I think it's most accurate.
I think you'd be more annoyed if I didn't do this. If we
I'd
prepared,
be more
if I
annoyed.
came in as a professional.
I'll never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great cover because it wasn't on purpose for the first,
Eight
like,
times.
yeah, and then it became something I had to think about because I was like, all right,
I love that you couldn't even get through the intro without your brain just exploding in a different direction. You're
yeah,
like, wait, one thing real quick. Welcome, friends. I am the man hater, as they call me on the internet, even though I don't hate men. And this is
Chesko, aka Mr. Pick Me, even though I've already been picked.
by your wife and also by a vote because you've been given the title of what at the cheer awards?
Daddy.
No!
No,
Oh my god!
sorry,
No! Ew, sick! No!
sorry.
Oh my god! That gave me a visceral reaction.
I
I
was
just had a
thinking of
heart pain.
no, you know it's
Woo!
funny that sounds way worse than it actually. But I was thinking about who I thanked in my speech of my wife and kids, and they gave me the title of dad.
No, they didn't give you the daddy award,
I got the Educator of the Year award
which is now creepy because you just said they called you daddy.
and
So
a Daddy award.
ah! I literally like my chest hurt when you said that. I was like, ew, ew, sick.
That is, and to be very clear, that is not a form of role play that I've ever ascribed to because I do not like that at all.
Oh, we can't.
No hate. Some people love that stuff. That feels weird to me.
You know what? We don't need to keep talking about it. Let's let that one go.
I
Let's
prefer
just
to be a formal handshake and a very business-like approach to any sort of intimacy.
what? A formal handshake in a
I'm
business like
trying to be funny and it's coming off so awkward. Oh,
where are we headed? This is the most off the rails start. Oh
yeah.
my God. A
It's my
formal
brain.
handshake and a business like
I
approach.
thought it would be funny and it came out
Hello, ma'am.
less funny. Pleasure to see you here.
The pleasure's all mine.
Pleasure's all mine.
Shortly.
Can I offer you anything?
I don't want to do this. I
Okay.
don't want to do this.
Reagan, what are we going to talk about on today's episode?
Therapy.
Perfect transition.
No, it's not.
Well, we're talking about it's about love.
Yeah, we are talking about like people who are trying to figure out the proper ways. Society, like this.
Right.
What did I say? What just happened? The daddy thing's really throwing me off track here. I don't know if I can recover.
New merch. Daddy.
No, no.
Mhm.
Anywho, we are talking about love on the spectrum, the couples, and also our thoughts on the show and the reaction of other people are having to it. That's what we're talking about today.
Theme song.
You want bad advice? Man, I'll give it out gladly. I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. Shit.
Wait, can I say something real quick before we start talking about the show? Somebody, this is
Is this the burn?
yeah, that's what I
Okay.
want to say. So somebody, in our, so we talked about alpha males, and making fun of them. You
Yes.
know the things.
Yes, we did.
But I've made multiple videos about it, and it just reminded me. Somebody in my comment section said, you just don't like alpha males because I've seen your body shape, and you look more like a likes to eat pie male." Spelled P-I. So,
Have you seen? Okay, hold on. So we have to talk about that. This is a common burn, I guess. So Caleb Heron, do you know who Caleb Heron is?
That name sounds
A
familiar.
very funny comedian, gay,
Okay.
uh, good friends with Brittany Broski and Drew Afualo.
Hmm.
He has the So True podcast. I've never
Hmm.
heard someone so quick-witted in my life.
Hmm.
So Caleb had this story about how somebody commented under his he was like, this is going to be a butchering of a retelling, but he was like, this guy comments under my video, and he's like, I don't know about you guys, but this guy looks like he broke into a bakery and ate all the pies. Caleb's like, I'll F your dad today.
Today.
But it was just like, what a
Uh,
weird. He's like, is this the 18th century limerick?
it's such
Like,
a it's such a weird, but I love what burns like that though, because it like
oh,
if it can make me laugh, I'm like,
you know what? You
that
can
was
have it.
great.
You can have it.
I'm a likes to eat pie male or ate too much pie males. It was something like I don't remember the exact wording. I wrote it down somewhere.
That literally is like from the 18th century. Like, oh, he looks like he eats too
He
many
likes to eat
pies.
too many pie males.
Got
It's
him
like
burned.
good for him for knowing his like his Greek letters.
Oh my God.
Maybe
Oh,
that
that's good.
should that be another merch? Likes to eat pie
Likes
male.
to eat pie meal. Yeah. I got yelled at for being too loud. I did this whole video and then this guy goes, why are you yelling? I'm like, because it's my fucking page. And
Could you
I'll yell as
moderate
like I
your
want
tone?
to.
Could you moderate your tone a little bit?
I'd like to hear what you're saying, but you're a bit loud. Calm,
Right.
calm down. Your tone is off-putting, as
Ah,
is your face.
that's my brand.
That's my brand. Woman who yells a lot.
Or just there's a lot of stuff, and this will transition I think into our thing. So I have a lot of stims that I didn't realize, autistic stims that I didn't realize existed until I started filming myself
Mm,
for hours a day every day.
yep.
And one that I get so many comments, like I pull my beard hair. It's a very common stim, and I get comments on it all the time. One person was like, hey, I think people would really appreciate it if you could just not touch your beard in your videos.
You specifically, because I
And I was
doubt
like,
other
it's
people are sitting there like that.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry it bugs you, but I was like, it was like that's not gonna happen because I don't even know I'm doing it. It's not
That's
until
not gonna
afterwards.
happen.
It's like, hey, could you breathe less during
Yeah.
it? I'm like,
If I hold my phone up, depending on how anxious I am, like I get
mm,
have a slight like tremor in my hand if I get like worked up.
uh-huh.
And so like sometimes people are like, "Can you hold your phone still?" I'm like, "No, I can't
No, I literally
actually.
can.
I literally can't. I'll put it on a stand, I guess, but like when I'm worked up, the camera, it's there's no cinematography here. It's just shaky cam. This is the Blair Witch.
There was opposite ways. It was a weird compliment I got online where there was a whole discussion online. They were like, "Have you ever seen? How do you hold your phone so still?" Because I would film while walking, and
Oh, yes.
they're like, "Do you have like
The stick.
a sta-" I was like, "No, it's just I'm holding it." They're like, "That's amazing,"
Like I'm
and I
oh,
was like, "Well, all
sorry.
right,
I
thank
can't do my
you."
ear because I have headphones on, but
Yeah, but I appreciate
oh
you noticing my firm hand,
no.
Daddy.
Yeah, yeah, I knew you were gonna go there. I'm not doing it. I refuse. I know it's a good joke. I'm not doing it.
All
There's
right.
gotta be a standard somewhere here.
Okay.
Let's talk about these couples.
Sure. So we thought it would be a good way to just kind of go through couple by couple, and we both adore this show. I guess
Yes.
we should say that we are both, especially just like I see so much of myself and my kids in the these people, and I think it's from my perspective, I think it's actually really cool to show that they are adults and humans because I think there's so much some of the same critiques of the show is what society does to
Yeah.
autistic people in general, like we're like because of the fact like I've we talked on the pre-show about how my obsession over comic books and how many comic books I love and could talk about
Yes.
and go over, as a kid's thing
Yeah.
that I love, and just it's just because that is a interest that is associated with younger people doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not also an adult with adult
Right.
feelings, and yeah.
And that's something that's common from what I have been told and what I have witnessed with
Mhm.
people who have some type of fixation on something that is seen as a child, whether it's a game, a hobby, or
Hmm.
dolls or whatever.
Hmm.
And when they get older, even though their love of that item or game or whatever has not changed, they're expected to ditch it because they're too old for it. And
Hmm.
it's like you can understand why someone would be like, why was it okay a year ago, like why all of a
Hmm.
sudden is this a problem? So I love seeing a lot of these people on the show being so open and
Hmm.
like unapologetic for the things that they love.
I also think a lot of people mistake. They think that autism is an intellectual disability, and it is not. It's co-occurring often with intellectual disabilities, and that's what you see certain things. But
Sure.
I think people, I've gotten. It's one of the reasons I was afraid of even talking about it online at one point, like because there's such a stigma that like of aspects of it. And there's nothing wrong with obviously having an intellectual disability,
Sure.
but there the assumption and the that what you're saying or you don't know what you're talking about or that you're not capable of understanding the things you're discussing because you have this disability. And that's I think you need more representation like this to have conversations and to talk about it so that people understand that they are just humans.
So this show originated, it was an Australian show.
Hmm.
And then the same people who made it came to America. Cian, I think is his name, or Kian. And
Yeah.
they made it here. They've done a couple seasons. I want to get through the
Mhm.
criticism and then like we can just get to what we like about it.
Right.
Obviously, I have a huge problem with the way that it's edited.
Hmm.
I think it's very infantilizing. I think definitely I figured out what it was after you and I spoke
Hmm.
about it. I don't remember when I don't know how we talked about it, but I remember I was like, there's something that really bothers me.
Hmm.
And then I watched the rest of the season, and it is definitely the music, which the
Hmm.
underscored like childlike music, and it's the way it's cut, especially the
Hmm.
intercuts of like the little inserts where they're like, Megan likes the wind.
Right. Right.
But the main thing is that stupid narration. The way
Yeah.
that the narration is done is literally like that. It's
Hmm.
like, and now Davy's going to go on a walk and he's so excited to meet a
Hmm.
pretty girl. And it's read like a child, like
Hmm.
it's child's show narration. The tone
Hmm.
of it, like the way she speaks, how slow she speaks, her word
Hmm.
choice, like all of that is incredibly infantilizing. That,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, the narration is definitely.
Right. I also part of the issue I have, and this is them doing it, the way that they play up the awkward silences
Yes.
is it's very clear. Like, first off, every conversation between everybody ever has awkward silences, right?
Yes.
You're going to have those, but they do it for every single person. They always leave it either at a cliffhanger or they play it off the beginning of it, which, like I said, neurotypical, autistic people, anybody, when you meet the first time, not everybody immediately is just like, we're
Mhm.
best friends in the world, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you are, sometimes you do hit
Yeah.
it off with people, right? But especially when it comes to dating in general, it's not always so easy in the beginning. And so they over the top play out some of the awkwardness
Hmm.
for, I don't know if it's for humor or to just kind of, I don't, to stress people out with that, like, say something. To people are yelling at their TV for them to
I
say or do something or.
I think it's definitely to oversell the
Mhm.
awkwardness. Like, oh my gosh, they're so uncomfortable. It's so hard for them socially. Like, but it's
Mhm.
almost, I would agree. Like, it's a little like poking fun a little. Like, it hits
Mhm.
the point where it's like, I feel like you are making them look awkward, whereas maybe they are being awkward, but also like you've taken two people who don't know each other. They've
Mhm.
not picked the date or where it is. So yeah, they're meeting complete strangers and it's awkward.
It gave me anxiety watching it because internally,
Hmm.
that's my biggest fear in the world. Like when I'm meeting somebody
Yeah,
and there's silence, because small talk is hard. That's
it
a
is hard.
common trait of autism, especially though, where it's the turn taking and everything that goes into that. Where I go into a performance mode where I just have to fill the space. You see
Same.
this with Tanner, where he's he's like, I
Yes.
need to think of what to say. You see this with James on the show, like where we have to think of things to say, and there it's a matter of like figuring out how to do it in a proper way. But so when they're showing it, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, every fear about how I was worried my conversations were going, that was true. That's actually how it is when I talk to people.
Everybody has moments on a date where somebody's not
Hmm.
talking, you're eating, you're taking a breath.
Hmm.
It's just when you underscore it's like like yeah,
Right.
that looks more awkward. And like
Hmm.
maybe they're showing more on their face that like, ooh, this is awkward rather than like this is something that happens in every conversation.
Hmm.
I also found out that they don't pay them other than they pay for the dates.
Really?
And I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
that is not, I was not pleased. I think, let me double check that, but I'm 90% sure. Because I remember
mhm.
reading that and being like, oh,
I think it was also important before we get into the why we like it. Overwhelmingly, from what I've seen, from the people that have been on the show,
mm-hmm,
is that they have approved and felt they were treated well. They've liked seeing them how they were represented, and they have kind of like felt like it was a good representation of them. Like they have not been complaining,
sure.
at least from what I've seen. And I think the my issue with people that were like writing off those on the show for saying that it was okay. They were like, well, they don't know what they're talking about. So they were like infantilizing the people on the show
Yeah,
because they didn't agree with them that they were being infantilized. And so I
yeah,
think it's important that you have to, if you want to respect adult individuals as having agency, then you have to also respect that they personally think that the show represented them well and that they had a good experience and that they were treated well. And I think that has to have some weight on the conversation.
I agree.
Mhm.
And I was correct. They were not paid, which I'm like, that's kind of bullshit because you're making a lot of money off them. But
Yeah.
they do, I think you mentioned this, they have, a lot of them have gained a following.
Hmm.
For Tanner, for example, got to meet Jack Black because of
Right.
this very wholesome moment.
Hmm.
But let's talk about the couples and our thoughts.
All right, sure. Let's go with I made a list of them.
Thank
Let's go
you.
with kind of the OG perfect couple on there was Abby and David.
Abby and David. Well, first of
Mhm.
all, Abby started getting accusations of not being autistic. Did you know that?
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would watch her videos. So she and her mom started
Uh-huh.
making I would say it's like educational content, but just like
Hmm.
talking about her and her life and the way that she processes her environment and how she copes, different whatever. All these kinds of very helpful and very eye-opening things.
Hmm.
And there was some stuff where people were saying she could not, quote unquote, could not be autistic because of how well she functions socially and like conversationally. And I was
Okay.
like, I
Yeah.
hate you. I
Yeah.
hate
And
all
I,
of
I
you.
hate because it's such a gross misunderstanding of what the modern understanding of being autistic is,
Yeah.
right? It's based on these really outdated modalities and outdated understandings and stereotypical
Yeah.
understandings of what it means to be autistic, that goes into the all and that feeds these stigmas,
Yeah.
right, which not to get too political because we're never political here, but leads
Never.
to like idiots like RFK
Yeah.
saying we're gonna find the cause of, and they're calling it like a disease, which is so utterly problematic. Because like, why has the rates gone up? Could it be one that we actually understand it better? Two, that we're actually getting people diagnosed that don't, because before intellectual disability was a requirement for being autistic.
Yeah.
Three, people that both women and people of color were systematically not given diagnoses before because the cultural ways that it comes out was not seen as autistic before. Three or four, I don't even know what number I'm on. Things like Asperger's was considered a separate diagnosis before. There's screening tests that are going on early and earlier. As the stigma starts to go down, more parents are willing to even let their children be evaluated now
Sure.
for it. So the numbers aren't necessarily skyrocketing. It's just that more people are actually understanding that they are autistic. And so there's, instead of accepting the actual data behind why there are more diagnoses of this now, it's there has to be some sort of villain involved with.
I got a little quiet there because I started feeling rage. I feel incredibly angry about the way that some people frame autism and
Mhm.
the way that they talk about it, particularly as you said, like a disease, like that needs
Mhm.
to be cured.
Mhm.
I think it's incredibly offensive and it showcases that the people talking have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And like, there's just so, like, there's so many amazing, like, I know so many, well, amazing people who have autism. And it is so heartbreaking to me when people use that language
Mhm.
because it acts as if this part of them that contributes to who they are, that
Mhm.
makes them as amazing as they are, that leads to them seeing the world in ways that creates this beautiful personality of
Mhm.
who they are as a human being, that someone would ever say that this is some type of disease that needs to be taken
Mhm.
out is just so horrifically offensive to me. Like
Mhm.
anybody's bringing that to the table should be exiled from the
Mhm.
conversation because they clearly don't understand what they're talking about.
And it is a disability. I'm not like trying
Sure,
to
sure,
downplay that. I think there's a difference between acknowledging the disabling effects of it, and
sure,
especially if you as you the more needs you have and the more things that it can affect in your life. I'm not denying that. Like there are aspects of my own life where it is crippling, right?
sure,
The
sure.
things that it can do. But and so crippling is probably not a correct word to use. But it's debilitating. Where it can where it gets in the way, right, of certain things that are in my life. But acknowledging that it is a disability is different than the pathologizing it as this weird, evil,
Right.
horrific thing that is the worst possible thing in the world that could ever happen, as opposed to just dealing with what the actual reality of living with it is.
I mean, I'm bipolar, I have ADHD, like
Mhm.
there's conversations that go on about that as well. Like there's always people who speak on it as if like that needs to be cured and fixed
Mhm.
and it's like just stop it.
Mhm.
Like stop demonizing who I am and stop acting like you could ever,
Mhm.
like you can't ever take something out of someone and
Mhm.
it not impact them. I'm bipolar. If you took
Mhm.
that away, sure, maybe some parts that I don't like would go away, but then it also is a huge reason why I'm empathetic. It's a huge reason why
Mhm.
I'm so creative.
Mhm.
It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyways, we can move past
But
this. It
back
just pisses me off.
well back to what you were saying with Abby too about people questioning it too. That is such a wildly problematic thing that you see happen all the time online, by people that once again don't understand it.
Right.
It's like you would never ever, or I guess some people will, because some people are just terrible. But like if someone says that they have a diagnosis or says they are something online,
Hmm.
I just can't imagine be like liar.
No, you're not. Yeah.
You absolute liar. Why? How dare you? Because assuming that you know everything about their life, everything they go through, and
Yeah.
even someone like Abby on Love on the Spectrum, you're seeing more of her than someone that even with a small social media account would. That's
Yeah.
still such a 0.00001% of her life and her experiences you're seeing on this screen, and to
Yeah.
think that is enough for you to either to have any sort of determination of who they are and what they go through and what they're
Yeah.
dealing with is absurd.
But I think her and David, it's David, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, good. Abby and David are such a good pairing. Like
Hmm.
their love of animals and like I feel like that was one of the selling points for them in the early days, but it's just
Hmm.
they have such a beautiful understanding of each other. Like
Hmm.
in the I think it's the last episode, Abby sings David this beautiful song.
Oh.
First of all, didn't know she could sing, didn't know girl had
Hmm.
pipes. I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, I'll just cry now."
Right.
That's fine. But like through the song, you can just tell how well they know each other. Like, this is what
Hmm.
you like to do, this is what I like to do. They just have this really deep appreciation for what makes them both unique, and they love that
Hmm.
about each other. And I thought
Right.
that was so beautiful. And I'm like, psh, God, there's so many people I dated. I don't think they could write me a verse about
Right.
what they know about me. Like I
Right.
don't think they would have any like idea. And so it was just so sweet and like I just think they really appreciate each other in ways
Hmm.
that God, I wish I saw more of in just everyday life, you
Hmm.
know.
one thing I love about them too, they're a good example of, you can tell they're comfortable being silent around each other.
Yes.
And those moments where, because the show tries to play up so many awkward moments, but when you see them, it just feels like, oh, this is my person that I can sit with and just be with, which is what it means for any relationship, right? Where you don't have to be constantly entertaining the other person, and doing stuff with them.
I just think it's so sweet. They're just so comfortable. Like it's so rare, I think. It's something I like about my own relationship is that
Hmm.
I enjoy just being around her. Like I enjoy the silence. I
Right,
enjoy
right.
all these little things
Hmm.
that, and this can be, I don't know which one of the things that I have going on is the reason for this, but I have a lot of anxiety
Hmm.
with other people. Even if I don't feel bad,
Hmm.
I get overstimulated, or I just get to the point where I don't like or feel that calm very
Hmm.
often.
Hmm.
But when I'm with my wife, I feel so calm and relaxed. I don't My mind's not going a million miles a minute, and I just have a sense of peace around her. And I feel like they're that type of couple where when they're together, there's just a calm for them.
Right.
Maybe like I would think that didn't exist as much when they weren't paired.
Hmm.
So
100%.
love them. Love them.
Also, he's seems very wealthy.
Oh, he is. He's
Yeah, I was
he's
like that.
like they're loaded. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
was like,
found
some
that
of the stuff that
out.
I see, I'm like, wow.
Sir? Yeah, he's has an incredibly wealthy family. I was like,
Hmm.
because that's when they went on the trip to Africa. I was like, Jesus,
Yeah, right from the get go, I was like, all right, this is something right there.
good for you, girl. And she's with him for his personality. So don't get crazy.
Right, right.
We know that. We know that.
Hmm.
All right, who's next?
Yeah, let's move on to Danny and
Oh
Adon.
my God, I love Danny.
Hmm.
I love Danny. I don't know. It's so many things.
Hmm.
Danny is such a like an incredibly motivated person.
Hmm.
She's all about the business. Like
Hmm.
she knows exactly what she wants from this is from the last season. Like she knows exactly who she is, what she wants. She doesn't settle. Her style is immaculate.
Hmm.
Like I want to be her friend. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I just love like I feel like she's so honest
Hmm.
and like about what she wants and she's so clever and like I think she's just precious as a human being.
I think she gets a lot of negative pushback, because of the fact that she is so honest. Like, she's like, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. And when a woman has dares to actually
How
have
dare you?
confidence in knowing what she wants, people get mad at her. Like, like, why is she like that? Why is she just being open and honest with what she wants about the world?
That's what gets me is I
Uh-huh.
think people who are autistic get so much flack
Hmm.
for things that I personally don't understand either, which is the ways that neurotypical people are very covert in what they're doing. Like they're
Hmm.
often not honest about their intentions. They're not honest
Hmm.
about what they're feeling. They're speaking in coded language, there's subtext, there's sarcasm, like you're expected to understand. I said
Hmm.
this, but I mean that. I'm
Hmm.
hinting at this because it's not polite to say.
Hmm.
It's so complicated. And so when I see someone being direct, like I want people to be direct. That helps
Hmm.
me. If I know,
Hmm.
I'd like to know what you think.
Hmm.
Like, that's
No,
helpful to me.
100%. It is. I get in trouble. That's one thing I think I talked about this last week on the
Hmm.
pre-show. But I get in trouble on Threads a lot because of the fact that I just kind of post my thoughts on there,
Yeah.
and I don't I mean what I say, right?
Yes.
It's what I am saying is what I mean. And it's giving me a really good insight into how often I wouldn't say even just autistic, but in general neurotypical people, like people that aren't that don't have their own things going on, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll say, are have so many hidden meanings
Yes.
behind how they say things. Because I realize I use adverbs a lot.
Hmm.
Right. I say genuinely and literally and adamantly, and so I say them so much because of the fact that I'm so used to being misunderstood.
Yes.
People assume that when and this is, I didn't realize it till more recently what I was doing, because probably throughout my life, throughout my childhood, I'd say something and they'd be like, well, why did you say that? Why did I say what? Or what do you really mean by that?
I said it.
I mean exactly what I said. Why are you upset at me?
I'm scared. What are
I
you
don't
saying to
understand
me?
why you're mad at me. That is, I have said those words at least 1,000 times in my life. Why are you mad at me? I did something nice for you. I told you what I wanted.
I had to, yeah, with dating, like I really had
Mhm,
to learn like what people mean when they say blank because it's not what they said. There's so much,
mhm,
especially in the dating world, there's
mhm,
so much like hidden, like, well, if a guy asks you to come over at night,
mhm,
he's definitely trying to get like have sleep with you. And you're like, okay, but
mhm.
what time is it all right?
Right.
Like, is the what if it's 6 o'clock and the sun's going down? Am I in trouble?
Mhm,
Am I at risk? You know, it's just like these little weird things. And like let's speak specifically to Danny and Adon.
mhm,
So Adon is a religious person,
mhm,
and some form of Christianity, I think, because he
mhm,
wears a cross.
mhm,
And he, although at first was thinking maybe he would want to be intimate before marriage with Danny, he eventually is like, no, I can't have sex before marriage. And Danny is hypersexual. Like not, I'm
mhm,
not, I don't mean that in an insulting way. I just mean
no.
she's always
She
been
knows what
like,
she wants.
yeah,
She
she's
wants, yeah.
very into that. Like
Mhm,
she's been even in
mhm.
I remember in the earlier season she was also like you could tell that
Talking about it, yeah.
she was very interested in it. I don't know how much, at
Mhm,
least in the future, I'm not sure what her dating life was prior
mhm,
to that, but like she was very open and honest, and
mhm,
they both were trying to be open and honest. And it came down to a conversation where he told her, I can't have sex before marriage. And like
mhm,
she did a whole cartoon of them
mhm,
doing that. And
mhm.
you could tell how heartbroken she was. She
Right.
was like, because they both kept saying over and over, which I thought this was very refreshing. I know
Mhm,
that the subject matter is uncomfortable, but as someone who had that conversation
mhm,
a lot, I
mhm,
constantly was telling like, no, like,
mhm,
no thanks.
mhm,
It is uncomfortable, but they handled it. I thought, like,
mhm,
I watched it and thought it was handled with a lot of grace, which was Danny's like, I'm not pressuring you. I respect your decision. Is that
mhm,
your decision? Adon
mhm,
was like, yes.
mhm,
I am not changing my decision. She was seeing will that change? He said no, and they chose to break up because they
mhm,
wanted different things. She was very interested in exploring the sexual relation aspects of a relationship. Adon was not. I
mhm,
don't think he even liked kissing very much. I
mhm.
know now they are feuding online.
Are they
Some.
really? I didn't hear about this.
Yes, they are
Mhm,
feuding. Adon is saying she's lying about him, and she's saying like he kind of blindsided her,
mhm.
which I don't want to speak to any of that because I don't know any of that. I'd
Yeah,
rather
I don't know
stick
enough
to what
about
we
that
do
like
know.
on the show, yeah.
Yeah, on the show, which is that I thought this was an incredibly respectful conversation. She was so kind to him. She was
Mhm,
repeatedly was like, "I respect what you're saying. I
mhm,
hear you. I understand. Thank you for
mhm,
telling me." And I didn't feel like she was pressuring him. I felt like she was saying, "Is this your decision?
mhm,
Because if so, I then need to make a
mhm.
decision." And yet online, people are like, "Ah, she's horrible in that scene." Like,
Well, because in the real world, we expect women to cave in anything they want, and they're not allowed to want sex. They are supposed. She should have been thankful that he wanted her to be to keep her body count low, right? Isn't that what
ew,
that's a good thing? Right?
ew.
Because it's all anything she was doing is when you look at the typical way that society treats women, is that she should have, if she really loved him, she should have given that up
Yeah.
and just suffered for to be with him,
Ew.
and not explore this thing. And there's an aspect of this too that I know I've saw conversations asking about both Adon and the other couples in the show too. um Autism, a big aspect of it is rigidity of thought
Sure.
process. Is where you hear justice sensitivity a lot, which does not mean you're a good person. It just means you have strict set principles that you like. This is the
Yes.
weirdest thing. The thing people misunderstand about this though is Elon Musk, assuming he is autistic, also can have justice sensitivity. It just his justice principles are bad,
Is him. He is the
are shitty.
justice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so there, it doesn't
Yeah, sure.
mean people tend to think, oh, that's why I'm such a good person. It's like no, it just means that
No.
you have set principles that you don't. It's very hard for you to move on. And I
Yes.
know, and like I said, growing up undiagnosed, I was extremely religious too, and it took me a long, long time before I was able to even mildly adjust some of those things. And it took like huge life changes
Yeah.
for me, because of the fact that I was so set and this is how it is supposed to be, right? And so something like waiting till marriage to have sex is something, and that was something I believed in when I was a young man, because that was
Mm-hmm.
what my principles set for me. And moving on from that was an extremely difficult process. And I think it's difficult for anyone, but especially when you have a brain that does get set in certain types of ways of thinking, where it's even more difficult to do. Like these, if the two of them have decided that he decided this is not something I want, she decided this is something I want, it's not as simple as maybe a neurotypical couple, or I don't want to use holistic and interchange and neurotypical interchangeable, but an holistic couple, being able to adjust certain aspects of them, because a someone that is not autistic can adjust certain aspects of their personality, man or woman, regardless of, or non-binary, anybody on the gender spectrum, right, has an easier time adapting for someone that they love, because it is not the same type of brain makeup. And so I think this is a bigger difference than people understand if you don't understand holistic brain makeup.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
also I
Mhm.
I have really intense justice,
Right,
whatever. What is
right.
it? Justice sensitivity,
Just the sensitivity,
which
yeah.
is aligned
Mhm.
with what I see as morals. Like
Right,
that, my
right.
interpretation of what's
Absolutely, yeah.
moral. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I have a really, really hard, like if someone does
Hmm.
something and I see it that I think was immoral, like I will
Hmm.
think about it for the whole day.
Oh
Like
yeah, absolutely.
I'm like,
Uh,
I should have stepped in, or I should have said
if
anyway.
not for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I could tell you things
Yeah.
that happened like 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Anyways,
Hmm.
but I don't know where I can't understand what people see wrong with the conversation. Like
Hmm.
I actually don't get it,
Hmm.
because one, I had many conversations like that. Thought I was saving myself to
Hmm.
marriage despite not being religious.
Hmm.
So think about that. I ended up being gay, but that's what I thought I was doing. And so I had a huge chunk of my life that I would have this conversation and just be
Hmm.
like, I'm never gonna do that, not gonna do that. And there was plenty of guys, especially when I was like younger, that were like, oh, okay, well, I don't
Hmm.
want to date you. And I'm like, that's fine. Like that never struck me any kind of way. I would
Hmm.
have been more upset if they said, no, we can deal with this. This is fine. And then they kept pushing me. Which is what we see a lot. You see somebody who doesn't want to, like I guess in this case it'd be Adon, would be being pushed to do more than he wants to. Uh, or, I guess Danny would then be not fulfilled in her relationship. Chesko is sneezing so much right now. He's back. But
Hmm.
isn't it so much better that they both were honest? Because
Right.
they said, both of
Hmm.
them, there was back and forth, but they both were like, I am immovable
Hmm.
in this with this topic.
Hmm.
And then they both said, okay, well then we're not compatible.
Hmm.
What is wrong with that? That makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense is when somebody isn't okay and says they're okay and then tries to force the other person to change.
Hmm.
That's gross to me. That
Hmm.
doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's what's icky and wrong with so many relationships, in my opinion.
100%.
But the fact that people saw that and were like, ugh,
Mhm.
like, what's your problem? They're
'Cause
being honest.
yeah, I think it's a lot of people projecting too. Like they're like, well, I hated this thing about I changed everything about who I
Yeah,
was. I didn't actually, or I don't have firm principles. Like not, and I don't
sure.
even mean that as an insult necessarily, but that a lot of things that I know that I and you definitely too hold as like these huge aspects of our identity are kind of just like, yeah, I guess I believe in that for a lot of people. Or yeah, if I push comes to shove, I'd support that. But you know, I'm flexible.
That's yeah, again, I think that's where we're like the neurotypical, we're not coming from that perspective,
Hmm.
because I was like, I watched it and literally was like, good for them. Like, honestly, good for them. Like, good for
Mm-hmm.
Don for standing up for what he believes in. Good
Mm-hmm.
for Danny for doing the same. Because they're both, like, both things are really important. Someone's religion is
Mm-hmm.
obviously very important. And then someone's sexuality and, like, wanting to explore that is
Mm-hmm.
also very important.
Mm-hmm.
The worst relationships happen when people aren't meeting on the same, like aren't on the same page, and they just deny it, and then somebody tries to force someone to do something they don't want,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody just is completely unfulfilled. That's also
Mm-hmm.
awful. I think maybe because it's a woman, maybe they're like, ah, if it was
Oh,
Adon
that's
pressuring
100%.
her,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not pressuring, but if Adon wanted to be sexual and Danny was religious, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't have so much flack. But I am very proud of both of them. I don't think they were a good match, and I very much approved of them having strong boundaries and then being willing to let go of something that wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Okay,
I'm with you.
next up.
All right. Next up, who did I put next on my list? I didn't actually put these in any specific order, but next up we have Tanner. Oh no, let's go with Tanner. I said it. Tanner.
Tanner. I love
I love him
Tanner,
so
and
much.
I feel for Tanner because he does things that I do.
Mm,
The way he just fills, just talk, 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 talk.
mm-hmm.
I thought it was very interesting. A lot of the people on the show, I noticed whenever they finish a sentence, they like put
Mm-hmm.
a smile at the end. And
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if that's like a something that someone told them at some point, like, oh,
Yeah.
make sure you smile at the end of a conversation. That's the appropriate. Even Danny does it. That was just something I noticed. Is that do you have things like that for yourself that you have?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much of my personality is mirroring also like of the way
Oh
that I think
yeah,
of how you're supposed to act.
yeah,
Which I when I was younger, I was called a chameleon, because of the fact that I could, and I didn't realize, no, it was just that was me figuring out. It was a survival, it was a masking
yep.
mechanism, was figuring I would go into an area, spend some time figuring out exactly how everyone was talking, interacting, doing things, and that became my personality for the rest of the time. Somebody said
I get
that
that.
there was a video about tismerism,
Hmm.
which I loved, autistic charisma, for the people that don't know the slang terms.
The cool
Um,
kids, the
yeah,
cool terms.
but somebody said that whenever someone says like to an autistic person, "Oh, I love your personality," internally it's like, "Thank you, I made it just for you."
It's yours.
It's yours. You're actually, you like yourself. That's good. I'm happy you have good self-esteem. What you like about me is just that you're seeing yourself in me right now.
That's so funny. You know what though? I think Tanner has a very strong sense of stuff. He also has a lot of charisma. There was a couple of times I was like, Tanner,
Mm,
when Tanner was like, he called her like a hot thing or something.
yeah.
He's,
Uh-huh.
I was just like, oh my God.
Mm,
And it was so sweet because you could tell she
mm,
had not gotten that compliment before. She had not been called hot.
mm,
And so like he's just like, I don't know, he's just sweet with when he's with girls. He's just or women.
mm,
I think he's older than I think.
mm.
He's just so genuine and like I can't get over when he met Jack Black. I'm still like
Yeah, that
he's
was
like
one of the most
Jack,
beautiful
Jack.
moments.
It was
Yeah,
so sweet.
it's such a, once again, an honest. It's honesty. It's like there's
Yeah.
not there's no shell of lying going on or holding it down. This
Hmm.
is genuine for how I'm feeling in this moment. I also like like how at the end of the date he was like, "All right, well, I've decided already. We're just gonna be friends."
Yeah, that was the other thing.
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
could we not do this more? Like
mhm,
this is why I'm like why is this not more of this?
mhm,
Because like I saw that and I was like, God, I wish
mhm,
like I had done that or
mhm,
like because so many of us know we all
mhm,
like after one date we're like this is not, but
mhm,
like I've gone on second dates with people. I've like I just loved that right away he's like, do you want to be friends? And they were both like, yeah, okay. Like
mhm,
it was not a big deal. It was not taken as a huge insult or anything. It
mhm.
was just like, oh, I'm just not feeling this. And
I
I love
Go ahead.
that. Go ahead.
It's actually, and once again, it's watching the show was good for me. I think in like since I wasn't didn't find out about myself till much later in life, right? And look up that because of my own misunderstanding of what autism was. For I mean, honestly, it wasn't even looked at the same way for most of my life, right? But I see so many aspects of myself, and the running joke that I got people used to give me so much shit for was exactly that. That I would go on single one date, maybe two, and be like, and that's one of the reasons also why I don't have any like really, I think, negative bad exes, like evil,
Yeah.
like, you know, people always talk about all these horrific experiences with exes.
Hmm.
It's because I never let it get to the toxic moment of where we're staying in a relationship together even though none of us are happy.
Yeah.
I was always very, very cognizant of it and realized it early on. Like my wife and I have been together for 16 years now. I'm trying to think if adding in before marriage, something like that, right? My second longest relationship is 6 months. My third longest relationship is 2 weeks. Because and then I have a
Yeah.
bunch of other like 1 2 week of things where it was just like, no, and there's no point in this is fine. We're good.
I dated people for so long and I just
Hmm.
like it's like I didn't know where to end it or if I could end it or I thought I should
Hmm.
stick it like stick it through and like I needed to be there for them even though I knew something was wrong. And
Hmm.
so it was just like very I don't know. It was a breath of fresh air to see them just be like, "No, we're good."
Hmm.
But like in a nice way. Like they weren't being rude or anything, but it was just really nice. I think
Hmm.
I would be shocked if he's not going to have a girlfriend shortly because
Hmm.
I think he's just a very charming and like he just seems sweet. I love the way his relationship with his mom.
Hmm.
Just like everybody loves that, like a good relationship
Yeah.
with a
His
parent.
sister,
Yeah,
yeah.
his sisters, his
Yeah.
roommates, they have so like his
I
roommates are
love
so
his
supportive.
roommate
I
is my
know.
favorite. I forgot his name. We should look that up. But
I don't know
his
everybody's names, but yeah.
his roommate is the funniest friggin' like is genuinely hilarious
Yes,
the way, yeah.
yes. When he had
But
like cheese on a chicken nugget or whatever,
yeah.
and he's like, "Look at this."
Yeah, I'm like, you go, that's fine.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
like a great snack.
the other thing with Tanner too that I see him struggling with, and once again, something that I remember uh struggling with too in a different way, but
Hmm.
I hear him when he was on these dates, he'd go back and talk to his sister or his mom, and he'd be like, do you think I should be with someone that talks more? Like, because it's
Mm,
probably he's been told, okay, the kind of woman you're going to date is someone who's just like you, who does this and this and this. So
hmm.
I think there's even times where he's struggling. He's like, okay, well, you didn't fit these check marks that I was
Yeah.
told that I would like. And so I'm going to move on. Right. And it's,
I
that's a hard thing to deal with.
I also noticed like
Mhm.
my interpretation of the things that he said and watching him interact with the other women on the show was that he feels the need to fill space
Mhm.
and like you can see him like going through like a rolodex of
Mhm.
questions if there's dead air and
Mhm.
so I feel like when he's paired with someone who doesn't speak like that one
Mhm.
girl or woman did not speak very much
Mhm. Mhm.
I felt like you could see his anxiety like
Right.
ramping up because he was just started drilling her like with questions because
Mhm.
he's like I don't know that he likes that empty space and I think he's
Mhm.
like is a riffer like I think he likes
Right. And
going back and forth.
when you add in the fact that he knows he's being recorded,
Oh God.
also I wonder if I would never have been able to, I would have been the worst person ever dating on camera
Oh
because I'm
God.
already so aware of the way I'm acting, the way I'm talking. I'm already spending
Yeah.
so much energy performing self
Yeah.
that knowing that it has to be perfect, I guarantee I do wonder if Tanner is going to end up meeting his someone when there's not a camera around, when he can
Yeah.
just kind of let there be moments where he's not worried about filling that space and worried about how he's
100%.
acting and worried about that. So,
So rooting for Tanner. Shout out to Tanner. We
yes.
love you. Okay, who's next?
Next up, we got Madison and Tyler.
Oh my God. I love Madison. I would be friends with Madison. I she's very religious. I don't know how she would feel about
Yeah,
me.
I don't. Yeah,
I hope she'd be cool with it, but
yeah.
I really like that's
Mhm.
there aren't a lot for me in my life like I there weren't a lot of times I was really with the churches around me I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the stuff that went on. But one
Mhm.
aspect that I really liked was there was some really incredible support. And
Mhm.
I thought it was really cool to see the ways in which she supported, like the
Mhm.
community that she built with these girls that she met. I think they've known each other for a while. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're women now, but the way they support her hobbies and her interests and like what a good community she had, that was really sweet to me. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
that's a part where I'm like that part of community is great. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
liked seeing that. And also the unapologetic way that this woman has dolls. I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have in my, can I tell you a secret? I'm gonna tell you a
Mm-hmm.
secret.
Go for it.
I had a bookshelf that was like my knickknack. I had all these like I love little things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had all these little like weird little things like that I
Mm-hmm.
had collected or that I liked. And I love cows, by the way. Like I had all this
Mm-hmm.
cow print shit. It was on too much. Way too much. But it was like I put it away in the closet because I was like, oh, I don't think people
Mm-hmm.
need to see all these collections. And she's just like, here's all my American Girl dolls. Here's all
Mm-hmm.
my Disney princesses, like,
Mm-hmm.
and taking them with her. I'm like, yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
girl, like, be who you are. I just found that like so. I just found it refreshing.
It is there's an aspect too of when you see that, you can see that they had a parent that allowed them
Yep.
to be open and explore those things. You see that we'll talk about the with trains with Perry and stuff, but like in a really positive, healthy way that isn't always. And it's not, I like I said, I had a very loving mom. This is not me, but like there's certain the aspects of things that I loved and etc. that I knew I couldn't necessarily be open with or share with because I knew people looked at me weird,
Yeah.
right? I knew that when I talked about it obsessively,
Yeah.
that I would end up having negative repercussions. I wasn't always aware why, right?
Yeah.
But I would learn about those sort of things. And so having a system in place or having a community in place that allows you to love the things you love and just be open about it. I think I agree with you. I think that was such a beautiful thing to see.
And it takes a very strong person
Hmm.
to be able to continue to live that way. Like even at like with a special interest, like I can imagine that you can't like really let that go internally,
Hmm.
but like the way that she again like has continued to do that and does so freely and openly. I
Hmm.
can imagine she's had pushback. Like she has to have had just
Hmm.
if she grew up the way I grew up, I don't know. Like in whether it be through school or whatever else, there's so much pushback to
Hmm.
conform and the way that she has refused to change. And why
Hmm.
should she? Like why should she
Hmm.
have to? Like who cares? Why do
Right.
people care? I don't.
Right.
I think it's great.
Right.
And like, because people like they get obsessed with clothing. People
Hmm.
like to always have a drink. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that's something that's comforting to you that
Right.
you do, but
You
we
have to have
don't
a
look down on
socially
that.
acceptable adult hobby, though,
Oh,
right?
excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
like,
Exactly.
or like, yeah, you're right. Well, you brought up like wine collectors, right? They
Yeah.
might have obsessed over having this amazing collection of wine and could talk about it for hours.
Hmm.
But if I want to talk about my favorite X-Men storyline,
I knew
all of a
you
sudden
were going
I'm
there.
the weirdo, right? Or if I want to talk
Yeah.
about my favorite video game,
Yeah.
right? Like it is, there is the internet has destigmatized a lot of these
Thank
things.
God.
Because we're finding out, other communities and people,
Yes.
there are like us that do like these things, but there is that it's you don't get to choose what your special interest is,
Right.
right? It just
Sure.
kind of happens. And unfortunately, when most of us are developing these lifelong special interests, we are children, right? And
Yep.
so these if you don't develop a socially acceptable special interest, then all of a sudden you are chastised for it. You're seen as weird, or you're seen
Hmm.
as an outcast. And so yeah, be unapologetic about it. I love that. And I love that she, and then she meets was it Tyler, was that his
Yeah,
name?
Tyler,
Tyler.
her cowboy gentleman prince.
Mm-hmm.
When I about screamed when it was like their second or third date
Uh-huh.
and he bought her an American
An
Girl
American Girl.
doll.
I
I
think it
was
was their
like,
I
we're
think it was their
done.
second one. Yeah.
But it's like that's the thing.
Because he listened to her.
Yes, people are so
Hmm.
fixated on what the item is. And it's like
Hmm.
rather than he heard her. It's
Hmm.
not about what he wanted to give her. It's
Hmm.
about what she wanted, what she loved. He
Hmm.
listened enough to know the right doll to get, one she
Hmm.
hadn't doesn't have because Lord knows she has a lot of them. So it's like it would be hard. You couldn't just like randomly grab one. Like he really thought about it when he gave it to her. And I'm like, damn, like he took interest in her special interest. Like so many people will never have that experience in their life. Will never have somebody who even listens, let alone like participates in and supports. And I was like, Tyler, you cowboy hat wearing son of a bitch. He always
There
goes,
was,
oh yeah, oh yeah.
oh
That's
yeah,
like
oh
he's always
yeah,
this, anything she
oh
says, he
yeah.
goes, oh yeah.
I
And like
reckon.
the only thing, I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater.
Uh-huh.
But I do not like I become unhinged when I see people like a lot of PDA like on camera. And
I knew
I
where
was
you're gonna go.
screaming when they're just like on each other's mouth. And the
Uh,
dad was like, ah.
he's like, and I that was such a moment where even as a dad, I was just like trying to imagine what I would be doing in this moment. Because it's
Screaming.
also you could see the battle of like they're so happy their daughter found someone
Yes,
that she is
but
wants to be affectionate with, but it was also like, all right, Tyler.
yes, I would have. He was nicer
Uh,
than me. I would have jumped in and be like, Tyler,
yeah,
enough, enough
enough.
on her
Let's take
face.
a break. Let's take a break.
Yeah, we're gonna
And yeah.
take a breathe. We're gonna have to have a rule about how often you guys can make out or whatever. Because friends,
Mhm.
if you didn't watch it, Tyler and Madison were locking
We're
lips every 2 seconds,
very excited about kissing each other.
and it was
Yeah, it had been a
intense.
few weeks since they'd seen each other
Yeah,
up to that point. Yeah.
but it was in front of her whole family and her dad,
Yeah.
who had never even seen her talk like before this, like really wasn't
hmm
talking about men or
hmm
boys as she was younger. And now he's watching her smash faces with one.
Yeah. And it was
My dad would have screamed. Yeah, he would have been like,
that
okay,
was
okay.
it was a genuine comedy moment, but
Yes.
accidental his face
Oh,
of just like because he knows he's being filmed
yes. He's like,
for
oh
an
my God.
international audience to watch
Yeah.
how he reacts, and so he's like, I have to be the coolest dad ever in
This
this
is
moment.
fine.
This is fine.
It was so
Anyways,
bad.
it was great.
I mean, it's great that they want to have that much
Yeah,
physical affection.
yeah,
I love it. I just can't like even on
yeah.
TV. I'm like I'm like ugh. Like it's
Mhm,
very rare that I see a kiss on TV that I was like that was good.
mhm.
That looked good. But good for them. Happy for them.
Yeah.
They're still dating, it seems like.
Mhm,
And she didn't settle, you know what I mean?
mhm,
She had the first date with the guy that she didn't like. They didn't
mhm.
meet each other. Can we talk about that conversation? Because I
Sure.
actually thought that was a really genuine, like honest conversation that you don't really see very
Mhm,
often, which was she tells him, we're not a romantic match.
mhm,
And he was someone who gets overstimulated.
mhm.
So the place they put them, I was like, are you
Yeah,
nuts?
I know.
Why
I
did you
know.
set him up for failure? So they put him in a crowded bar and he has to put on headphones and he's
Mhm,
so I don't know if he felt upset, but he was definitely
mhm,
overstimulated. I'm not sure what his mood was towards being overstimulated.
mhm.
But he almost had his head down on the table because it's like he's, it's one of those, you're like trying to get like
Right,
solace from the noise.
right.
And so then they move outside, but it's still really loud for him. And so
Mhm,
she says, this isn't a match. And he goes, I don't, I think it is. I just think I'm overstimulated here.
mhm, mhm,
And then she said, no, it's not a match. And I was like, that is such a good conversation because, she's saying, I don't feel it. And he's saying like, I am not my best self here. Like
mhm,
this is not me. I've been put in a situation where you're not seeing the best of me, which
mhm,
like when I started being when we had our daughter, I started my becoming like excessively overstimulated to the point
mhm,
like everything was setting me off. And I was like having like panic attacks and I got like noise canceling headphones.
mhm,
I didn't I was like, "Oh shit, this really helps." And I had
mhm,
never been pushed to that point. Um and so like it's like if you were to meet me in those moments where I'm so overwhelmed like I don't want to hear anything,
mhm,
like that is not me. That is not
mhm,
like so I had a lot of empathy for that and for that conversation, which is a fair conversation that we don't have very often. Like, hey,
mhm,
this is not the setting for me to be my best self. I think we could be compatible, but just not right now. And her saying, well, no, because I love loud places and I want to be
The things
social.
that she wants is going to continue
Overstimulating.
cause this to be an issue. And I don't, that's another thing too, that I actually think it's good that they show that also
Sure.
of um I know one thing we as parents have struggled with is we let our kids have their headphones and iPads in restaurants because of the fact that it's such an restaurants are such for people that don't have any sensory issues, not just autistic people, but like in general, if people have a sensory
Yes.
sensitivity, restaurants are sensory nightmares.
Yes, they are.
Right? They are loud. There are multiple conversations going on. There are screens
S-
usually in places. It's
Metal
bright colors.
screeching that,
Yeah,
yeah.
There's different textures in the food. You can see it, and there's just the smells, right? It's a sensory smorgasbord. That if you don't have a sensory sensitivity, it can be actually a interesting experience. But so we realized early on because our kids were, but this is before we even knew my son was autistic. But he would have such a horrific time at certain restaurants, and we couldn't figure out why. And then it was finally we realized it was the because I don't really have a noise sensitivity. I have a light sensitivity for certain things, but I don't have a real noise sensitivity to it. That was one of the things I never had to deal with really. And so it was I have a very specific type noise sensitivity. Not gonna stop focusing on myself and trying to explain this. Stop, Reagan.
Oh my God. I'm just sitting here
Anyways,
listening.
and so we started allowing them to use their headphones in restaurants, and they enjoyed themselves a lot more. They were
Mhm.
doing it, but there's so much judgment on parents that allow their kids to use
Okay.
iPads and headphones.
Can
Um,
can I just say
mhm,
something real quick?
mhm,
First of all, if you grew up in a generation where you didn't even have access to tablets and headphones, I don't want to hear it because
right,
your screen time was outside.
right,
We just got kicked outside. Like you're
mhm,
go outside for forever. Like go
right,
wait outside. And it's like if you can't judge something that you don't even know if you would have used because
mhm,
I guarantee you would have used it.
mhm,
And I think like parents can't win because if their kids have headphones, they get in trouble. If or
mhm,
like screens, but then also if your kid isn't on one and is
right,
screaming and making noise, though you also get judged.
mhm,
And so I think like there are times where my daughter isn't on the spectrum, but there are times when, I need a breath of
mhm,
I just want to eat hot food that I didn't cook
right,
and sit for a second and not be just have no stimulation.
mhm,
So I guess that's my other stuff kicking in. But so she'll watch something on my phone for a second. It's like,
mhm,
and then I get to eat, and then she's quiet, and it's
mhm.
like, just leave people alone. If
Yeah,
if you're
just
not
parent your own
disrupting your
children. Yeah.
life, and like,
Mhm,
sometimes kids get loud. It's like kids should be allowed to exist in space. I'm not saying
mhm.
they should run wild and, I saw a video recently of a child stabbing people with a fork on an airplane. I
Okay.
was like, not that.
No, that's you do have to draw a line somewhere.
This woman was like, she had her shoe up because she was about to whack the kid's hand because the child had a metal fork. It was or a
Oh
sharp
my
fork. It would
god.
look. I mean, it looked substantial. I
Mhm,
don't know how she got the fork, but she was like literally running down the aisle stabbing people. I was
mhm,
like, I get you shouldn't be doing those things, right? But I think there needs to be space for kids and understanding, especially if it's like calming, like it's calming the situation. Like, why is that a problem?
mhm. No, yeah,
Nobody
I have
knows.
no idea. People are, but it is the looks that you get and the way,
Really?
oh, and I think it's part in part because we're also dealing with them if they are having a meltdown. And I think we're more aware.
Oh.
We had the police called on us one time, where a cop came to our door, and luckily it was they were very chill about it. But my child was having my wife took her out for a walk, and she had a very bad meltdown, and then transferring her
Oh.
from the stroller into the house,
Yeah.
someone walking by decided
You're
that there
abusing
must
her or
be that,
something?
yeah, or you're kidnapping this child or something like that. And
Uh,
so I think my wife and I have talked about we're extremely sensitive to the view of other people just because we're constantly now like, are you going to call the cops on us
yeah.
for parenting our child? And that there was a video on that went viral of a young girl having some sort of a meltdown in a airport about
Mhm.
not getting something she wanted, and
Mhm.
everyone was certain that girl doesn't have a disability. She's just a brat. She's just terrible. I would never have done that, blah blah blah. And I'm like,
Oh, love the would nevers.
yeah, God. And it's always the perfect parent. The one person was like, I have three autistic daughters. None of them have ever acted like that in public. I'm like, oh,
Okay.
I hate so mad at everyone that is so judgmental off of a 30-second video online of a child acting. First off, don't put the child online. In
Yeah,
that
stop filming children.
it's a stranger filming a child, someone
That's
else's child in public.
who should we be mad at?
Yeah, the anger should be at the person filming another person's minor child and putting them on the internet to be publicly shamed. That's
Ew.
where the anger should be focused. But it's all the people that are experts from a 30-second clip and knowing, no, no, I can tell the difference. No, you can't,
No, you
right?
can't.
You absolutely cannot tell the difference. And even if it is just a child at an airport after a 12-hour flight with no inherent reason for it, but they're just upset because they wanted a toy and they've been really overstimulated. Stop doing that on the internet. I'm so frustrated about it. Anyway, I went up on a real big tangent here.
It really is a slap in the face with something like autism where,
Hmm.
people are so desperate to be diagnosed and have to fight
Hmm.
to get a diagnosis.
Hmm.
Some, into adulthood, like are
Hmm.
begging for help to then have everybody on the internet think they have a DR, in
Right,
front of their name, like, Mom,
right.
it's like, really? Because I tell that to my doctor who refuses to diagnose me. It's
Hmm.
just like, it's so insane. And I think, again, like, we have to have space for people to exist. Like, a child who is autistic will probably have a meltdown at some point. Like, are we saying they're not allowed in public spaces? Is that the
Hmm.
world we want to live in? Are we shaming them for existing? Like, that's insane to me. Okay,
All right,
that's me.
we have two more to talk about. Next up, we have feminist icon
James!
James.
James, I love James. He
Yes.
really is a feminist icon. This
Hmm.
man is on the internet shouting for women's rights like all
Hmm.
the time. Like you see a bit of it when he's at
Hmm.
his birthday bonfire. Also, why did his dad make it a bonfire? Leave it alone. Like the smoke
I
was
know.
killing them.
That was such
I was like,
a
stop it.
oh
Such a dad thing, It's like, no, we need this fire. I'll build it.
yeah.
And then
This will be
James is like,
great.
I don't like it.
I guess we'll do that, Dad.
That's fine. Okay. Their relationship is very funny. The parents and him, they're just like
I
he's
did,
just like, Mom,
yeah.
stop. Dad,
Just, let
please.
me explain to you. And the thing is, everyone's had those conversations with their parents. We're
Yes.
like, no, that's so outdated. No, you're wrong. Let me
Yes.
explain to you why that's a problem.
Yeah.
I one of my favorite things I did feel like at his party when Shelly was his girl, and as far as we know, they're still together.
Mhm.
Was I did feel he was like, I need you to know that she probably posted something about like abortion or something in her
Yes.
story, and he was like, I need you to know I'm also very passionate about this, and let me just
Maybe.
figure out a way to squeeze it
Well,
in a way.
I
Yeah.
don't know though, because he's like, if you check his like, I think it's his TikTok. I mean, he talks about it
Oh no,
very often.
I don't mean like he was doing it in a
No,
way
I
to
know.
like,
I'm just saying, I
yeah,
could
yeah,
see him just like randomly being like, and you know what else?
yeah.
Abortion rights.
But I've done that before when I know there's someone that has a shared interest of mine
Sure.
or something that I'm passionate
Yeah,
about.
you're like, I
You
also.
find ways to how do I force this into the car? Because I want us to be friends, and I
Yes.
know we're going to be friends. But if we
Yes.
don't talk about these certain things that I know we have in common,
Yes.
I've absolutely not done exactly that, but like with other things where I force stuff into conversation where I'm like,
Yeah.
I want you to know that this is I'm not. I don't believe the other way because just in
Mm-hmm.
case you need to know that I.
I have so much empathy for James. He gets very frustrated. There's lots of
Mhm.
times he's getting frustrated, and there's especially when he's like trying to get something his point
Mhm.
across, or he's trying to talk about something. Because like I have that, but a lot of it is like
Mhm.
internal. On the
Uh-huh.
inside, I'm screaming, but he'll be
Uh-huh.
like, "Huh?" Like he'll like you can just see that he has these moments where he gets really stressed.
Yeah.
Like especially there's point with Shelly, like at the bonfire when he's trying to ask her out, he's really
Mhm.
trying to get it out, but you can tell how stressed he is. I was like,
Mhm.
I get that, James. It is
Mhm.
stressful, especially when there's a pretty woman that you are
Mhm.
trying to talk to. It is
And also,
very stressful.
we'll talk about this with Connor in a second too. That first kiss, is so
Yeah.
hard. Man,
Yeah.
some people make it out to be easy, but I know my first kiss with my wife, it's a running joke about how awkward I was about like going. It was just this like this moment of kiss on the front stoop of her.
You're so
Uh,
much taller than her also. So how
I
did you
know.
even accomplish it?
It was
You have
every
to hunch over?
yeah.
It's crazy.
It's difficult to be open and honest about things
Yeah.
and not knowing and I think it's there is a level of um and I think that this is where more related to being autistic
Mm,
where everyone it's hard to read people. I think everyone struggles with it to an extent, but it's there is that's part of the diagnosis
mm,
is an inability to understand and pick up on other expressions and other the way that people are reacting to you at times,
yeah.
and so I think there's you overanalyze that even when you are viewing. We've talked about this with me before where I never assume positive intent.
Literally one of our last conversations about this was you
uh,
saying that someone asking to make out with you is not someone hitting on you, and
right.
I still have not recovered from that conversation.
But that's kind of
Like,
the but that's
what?
exactly where it is though. It's
Yeah.
like no, that I'm reading into
No.
this. I'm wrong here. I don't. This can't be what I think it means.
Yeah.
And so because and it's much easier to see for other people than it is for yourself too.
Hmm.
Like I'm watching the show. I'm like, come on. Like we'll talk about Connor in a second. But I'm
Hmm.
like, Georgie wants you to kiss her, Connor. It's right there. Just go for it.
Yeah.
But it's that constant doubt that I think I see what I think I see, but I've been wrong in the past so many times that I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to do this wrong thing. I don't want to overstep my boundaries
Hmm.
about this sort of thing. And so just this that moment of stress is something I felt on a guttural, like just an internal archaic level of just like, oh, I feel everything you're going through right now, my guys.
Yeah. Yeah. But
um,
he does a really good job, and like he
mhm,
goes on the one date that doesn't work out so well,
mhm,
but I love the way that he sticks to his style. I love the
mhm,
way that he's sure of what he wants. I mean, he doesn't want someone with dogs, and he
mhm.
really makes sure
Yeah,
there's not a dog involved, and he doesn't want
yeah.
kids too, and he's
Hmm.
open about that. And I
Hmm.
think he does a good job of that. I think he's proof that sticking to who you are and knowing what you want can have a positive outcome, because it
Hmm.
was hard for him for a while.
Hmm.
And then finally we see him seemingly still
Hmm.
in a relationship with someone he really likes that meets his specific needs,
Hmm.
and vice versa. So,
We saw them there was a picture I think of them afterwards of them cosplaying at like
oh
one
my
of
God,
the
I love
Madison,
it.
which and that was my wife and I kept saying why aren't they doing like dating at a Ren fair or something? Like he needs someone that is like into that because that's a big
Yes.
hobby of his. And then they didn't bring that up, but it looks like that's something
Thank
she's
God.
into as well, and that
Because
makes
he
sense.
loves it. And he did a date there last
Hmm.
time. So,
Yeah.
okay.
All
Do we
right.
want to get to your favorite couple?
Sure. Let's go to Connor and Georgie,
Connor?
the iconic couple of the set. And I mean that with zero sarcasm, with
Yeah.
complete genuine. It's one of my favorite couples on TV of all time.
God, Connor is so funny. Like, he genuinely has so many good lines this
Hmm.
season that slayed me. Like,
Well, I know there was the one with his mom, like where he was like, "I'm gonna cop a feel."
yeah.
It's like if I cop a feel, I must. Then cop a feel, I shall. And she's like, "Connor, you know that means like touching her boob." And he was like,
Yes.
"Oh no."
Well, he did one where he was like, they were saying, they said something like that, and he's like, that's that is too far. That's inappropriate. And
Uh,
then like he just kind of like turns and he's like,
he's like,
but
but
true.
it's true. He,
He's so good. And the
I
look
cannot. Yeah,
when he
go
has
ahead.
the secret face with his mom, which all of us have that, or
Uh,
I do anyways. Like
uh,
my whole family, we just will cuddle, look at each other, and we're like, "Oh,
mhm.
don't talk about that. That means that." And so he's like, he's like, "This is the face," and then he does like the
Yeah.
intense eyebrows, and then she says something to Georgie, and he gets the
Mhm.
face, gives the face, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, we have a face." I was
Right.
like, "Yes, you should."
There is so much of my son
Mm.
in Connor and his mannerisms and the way he talks that I found literally I would sometimes find myself crying constantly during Connor's side because I'm like, it's such a weird feeling. Like I'm like, that's my little boy, like as a grown up.
It's my
And
son on there.
they're different, but it like
Yeah.
because of the fact that there was so many much with Connor specifically, where I saw so much overlap with my son,
Hmm.
and the way he joked, the way he talked about things. Um, and a lot of ways, a lot of overlap with myself, and a lot of with the way that I talk about things in the world too. I also love one of the things I thought was so beautiful about Connor, and we mentioned a second ago, was how uh clearly he was seeking consent
Yes.
for doing things, and how it was such a good example of of just why it's important and how it can help, especially if you're not sure, if you're
Hmm.
understanding. Like, I wanted to know, can I kiss you?
Yeah.
And Georgie is the perfect counter for him because
Hmm.
she's so like gentle and understanding and patient,
Yep.
and she was very observant too, and she saw how uncomfortable she's like, how about my cheek or my hand? And
Hmm.
he was like, and she knows, and because she's also listening to him being loving, like medieval
Yeah.
things and all that,
Sure.
and he's like, yes, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like,
Well, and then you had the other moment where, like,
mhm,
then he really, you could tell he was like, oh, that's not what I wanted actually. Because
yeah,
it's like, it is this give and take. It
yeah,
is trying to figure out, like, what are
hmm,
you comfortable with? What do I want? And like, both of them were trying to figure out what's comfortable for both of us. And then
hmm.
him realizing, oh no, I really do want to kiss
I do
this
want to kiss you.
girl.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he does. It's
Uh,
so sweet. And he literally goes weak in the knees. Like, actually, he thought he was going
hmm,
to pass out. And
hmm.
I'm like, I get that.
Yep,
I get
yep.
that.
And the way he said, the way the sun is glistening off your hair, I was like,
I
oh,
can't. I
this,
can't with
but
it.
it's the on it's like an actual compliment, a genuine
Yes.
full-hearted. And well, even before that date though, he's talking to his brother, he's like, I ruined it.
I
I ru-
know. I
I've
ruined
been
it.
oh, I've been there, Connor. I know what it feels like when nothing goes right, or that when went great, but the thing you wanted to go right
Yep.
didn't go the way you wanted to.
And yeah,
Oh,
it was just so sweet the way,
mhm,
like, there's so few people on the planet that like would walk with you in the rain in a
mhm,
backyard to hear you verbally discuss how you're going to build your
mhm,
house. Like he's pointing
mhm,
to nothing and he's like, this is where this will be, this is where that'll be. And
mhm,
it's literally pouring rain. She's so genuine with him and she's so
mhm,
interested in his interests and she cares so much about him that like she's down for that. Like she is
mhm,
so invested in everything he says.
mhm,
And I'm just like seeing someone be appreciated and even his humor, he would joke and she would
mhm,
joke back, like seeing someone be valued and appreciated for exactly who they are and like someone gets like with my wife, like she's one of the only people on this earth
mhm,
that really gets me. I have a lot going on. Very
mhm.
complicated, but she
Right.
gets me and we get each other
Mhm,
like on a like it's visceral and our
mhm,
sense of humor. And so I think Connor probably hasn't felt that way with
mhm,
many other people. And so to
mhm,
see someone get him and he
mhm,
gets her was so beautiful to watch. Like it was so amazing. And it could not have happened if they weren't so honest with who they are.
mhm.
And yeah, I just was like
It's one of the
cry.
running themes of why this is a common theme, I think, among most neurodivergent people, but
Hmm.
you hear it among autistic people as well, where the autistic radar, where they can kind of tell what someone is. And I think part of it is when you can unmask a little bit more naturally around them, because
Hmm.
there is a feeling, I've noticed it myself too around certain people. And also this there was somebody online, I think it was, I'm going to say it, and if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself in the notes of the show. I think it was Black Spectrum Scholar on Threads posted about like they want there to be like a dating, but not where it's not for romance, but you just go around for 20 minutes and share your special interest with another autistic person.
That's so awesome
Uh,
though.
right? And it's I think it's the reason is, and it's like I said, there are individual people that also are good at hearing about this and kind of
Sure.
grabbing it on. But in general, I know the feel. It feels so bad when you're so excited about something and then you realize that this person does not care, or they keep trying to change the subject, and you're like,
Ah, brutal.
oh, I have 10 more minutes of this. I need to tell you, or else I'm not going to hear anything else you say for the rest of the day.
That's you for sure. You're like, wait, hold on. I have to tell you this thing
Oh,
really
I
fast, and
need
then
it.
I can hear you.
I have to. I promise I'll do the shortest version possible, or else nothing's gonna get accomplished.
Yeah, it is really sad. It's like soul crushing to think about, like, if somebody was talking about something they loved, and the person's like, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Oh,
like,
it hurt.
oh
It hurt.
my God.
I cannot express how bad. And then you feel also so embarrassed about it in that moment because you're like, oh, of course you don't care about this random comic book storyline, or you, of course, you don't care about this video game
Oh
that I was
God.
playing, or no, it's not even. Of course, you don't care about the backstory of a minor character in a video game that you're playing, right? Of course,
Yeah.
it's that moment of like, but it was really, but I had to find somebody to tell about this.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't care about the mechanics of playing this kind of character in this MMORPG, about the best way to maximize damage in order to blah blah blah. Of course, you don't care about that. And so,
I my most recent one of that is my poor wife. Poor wife.
oh,
I wanted to tell her literally a brief thing that happened on a show I liked it
mhm,
was a Korean kind of horror thriller, The
mhm,
Lighthouse. So good. So good. Or The Light Shop,
mhm.
excuse me. The Light Shop. And I it was the finale, and I go, "Oh, wow. I kind of have to tell you the whole thing." And I stood there and verbally described a whole series. All characters, all background, like every part of it. The visual, literally, this is all just
Uh-huh.
to tell her like one thing. Like I have to
Yeah.
give back, even when I tell a story, I have to give the backstory. And you know what? I'm so lucky because she's like, okay, yeah. And she's like,
Mhm,
oh, I can see why that was really emotional in the
mhm.
finale. And I'm like, oh God, what
Love
have I
that.
done?
I just did that 2 days ago. I just finished reading a book, Project Hail Mary, by Andy Weir. He's the one. He wrote the Martian.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's such a good book. And
Yeah.
but the very ending, and I
Mhm.
brought it. I was like, "Are you gonna? Let me tell you enough where if you want to read the book, I'm not giving you spoilers." And then
Yes.
and then she's like, "I'm not gonna read the book. Don't worry." I'm like,
Perfect.
"Okay, let me tell you everything," because I had to go through. And so
Yep.
45 minutes later, we get to the one thing at the very end of the book I
Yep.
wanted to talk about.
That's literally we're a little scary similar
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm frightened for
Oh,
us.
it's
Oh
great.
shit. But yeah, to that point, it's great to find people who get you. And
Hmm.
like I think certain people it's harder for them to find that. And so it was just so
Oh,
beautiful to see that.
speaking of what, we skipped. I realized we skipped Perry and Tina.
Oh God! Perry
All right,
Tina! Oh my God, so cute. Love them. I love them
real
so
quick, because
much.
we're like 2 hours into this episode.
I know. Perry loves the train.
Uh-huh.
Loves the tea. Loves the train.
Loves the terrific day.
Her wanting to like kiss a girl for the
Oh,
first time and be in I was
mhm.
like, oh my God, it me.
And that was
It's
we mentioned a little bit earlier. One of my favorite moments of that first date, though, was you could tell it was not even, it was not a aggressive, it was not a not even romantic. She was like, I realize I want this experience of kissing a girl,
yep.
of kissing a,
Get it.
and I need to know what it feels like. And you could tell she was like, oh, I bet it's not, no, it's not the right moment. So I just, she didn't do it, but you could tell, you could see the disappointment.
But Tina's hard to read, I thought.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
she's
Hmm.
I think she seemed happy the whole time, but I wouldn't have
Hmm.
known either.
Right.
I thought
Right.
she was just a little bit harder to read. So I could understand why,
Hmm.
she's a little like,
Hmm.
I don't maybe. But
Hmm.
I could not. I was like, there's so many things like um after they kiss, and then she was like, God, that's so much better than a
Yeah.
boy. It was weird. I'm like, girl.
Another healthy moment.
Ooh.
So the train club before she went on the date, she's with
Oh.
those boys, and they asked, they're like, "Did any of you were you ever interested?" And they're like, "Yeah," but then she said she was interested in girls. And we're like, "Okay," but it was because I think
Yeah.
they didn't say they were autistic. I got the vibe. My autistic radar definitely felt like they were of
Mm,
like-minded individuals. I don't want to. I don't know. Maybe we should cut that out. I don't want to diagnose anybody. We can
sure.
leave it. It's fine. Anyways, but you could tell that they were like, yeah, we thought she was cute, but she said what she wanted. We respect that.
That's not
So
us.
now we are continuing our friendship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I did. And it was such a that's how you should handle
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Oh, she's not interested in us. Regardless of sexuality or not, right? But there's no interest. Okay, that's fine. I thought maybe this could be something else. She has expressed her interest. I respect her as a person and a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on and just be friends and talk about trains.
And then our train goddess was talking to her sister
Hmm.
and had accidentally labeled her sister as lesbian and she's
Uh-huh.
bi.
Hmm.
And then she's like, "At least I didn't call you straight." I was like, that
Yeah.
killed me. I was
Yeah.
like, that's hilarious. But it was just so sweet to see like
Hmm.
somebody finally experiencing something they were so excited about. They both were so
Hmm.
excited about and like, oh, I really empathize with that because that is such a huge jump. Like when you're going from
Hmm.
dating guys to girls and like you just, oh God, I just was like,
Yeah.
that's so amazing and also scary. And I remember how like
Hmm.
intimidating it was. It's very intimidating. And it was just sweet to see that. Oh, it's a whole like it's completely in my
Hmm.
mind, like so like the social rules were different.
Hmm.
What how you approached it was so different. Like I felt like I had to start from square one. Like
Oh, I
when I
bet.
started
I
dating
bet. I
girls, I was
bet.
like,
Yeah.
I know nothing. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Not that I knew much before, but yeah,
With your wife, did you go for the first kiss or did she go for the first kiss?
I feel like I kissed her cheek and then we
Hmm.
turned heads. That
Okay.
feels, but what was funny is I
Hmm.
kept telling her, this is, I don't know, TMI maybe, but I was
Hmm.
like, I'm not going to kiss you on the first date. I was like, I will not, so don't expect it. I was very, like, because I
Uh-huh.
had had such bad experiences with men, I started being really clear with my boundaries and like
Hmm.
what I wanted. And
Hmm.
so it's probably why I like Danny. But I was like, I'm not gonna kiss you and I won't kiss you and don't expect it. And she's like,
Hmm.
okay, that's fine. And
Right.
then immediately upon meeting her, I was like, I'm kissing your face
I, I ne-
tonight.
I need your face on my face. This is
It's
it's
immediately
very important that
I
this
almost
happens.
it means something to me. We met at a bar and I was like,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to jump over this table. Like
Yeah.
I need to kiss you. Real I had never felt that.
Hmm.
Like I had never felt that way in my life. Like
Hmm.
the chemistry, I was like, what is this? What is that? This is why people I get it now because
This is what it's supposed to feel like.
everyone's
Okay.
always like I used to think people who like wanted to have sex all the time. I was like, what is wrong with them? Like, why are they
That's
like
just
that? Who
that's just
cares?
terrible.
I who has the drive for that? I don't
Yeah.
like even when I was young, everyone
Um,
would hook up with each other. I was like, why? And then I met
no,
my
thank
wife,
you.
no, thank you. Check no. But
Yeah.
I met her. I was like, oh
Mhm.
my God, I get it now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, I think just to because I know this we've gone on very long for this episode, and I think I want to sum up a couple things. One, a reminder, everybody, we are obviously not experts in this field. We are speaking from our own lived experiences and just observations, and so do not take anything we have said as a diagnosis or anything of that, because I think people tend to take that way too far
Sure.
online. Where there's far more to being autistic than anything we have mentioned on this show or that show. So keep that in mind. One of the I think in general, the thing that has made this show so popular is that it's such a nice counter to the toxicity of dating you see online and toxicity of dating you hear about so much on the internet, of just people being honest and forthcoming and just genuine in dating, which is what dating for everyone can take lessons from, about how much better it is when you aren't playing games, when you aren't playing all these sorts of different fake rules that you make up to convince someone to be with you, but when you seek out someone that shares your interests and you can be honest about whether or not it works out. I think that's why it's so popular. It's so refreshing to see
Yes.
adults engaging in a way that I think that honestly, holistic and neurotypical people especially have been told that you can't date that way. You can't have a romantic partner without playing game after game after game, without hiding how you actually feel, without you can't compliment them that in that way. You can't be as direct about what you want. Asking for consent before you kiss, that's weird. That shouldn't be how you do, right? And then you're seeing this all of these dating experiences that send in direct opposition to that, and they're like, oh, that's really refreshing. Maybe what can we take away from that? And I don't think people are gonna take that away from it. Like something the people that need to take that away from it. But I do think that's a big aspect of it is just seeing people engage in romantic partnerships in a way that we have been told is not how you're supposed to, quote unquote. Right? It goes against the societal norms of what we are constantly taught is the way to do something, and that's part of being autistic. Is you make your own norms. You don't necessarily always pick up on these cultural norms, which can cause your life to be harder in some ways. But we're seeing how it could be actually a really beautiful thing, especially when it comes to finding a partner.
Drop the mic. Well said, sir. I can see why you won Educator of the Year because that was a solid
I did
ending.
that.
I well, the listeners don't know what you just did because they can't see you.
Great audio. It's a collar pop.
It was a collar pop, friends. Thanks again to everybody who's listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
And I love you.
There it is. Bye.
I got some good advice for you.